or you can go for the Silos. Try and match the Corgi in the early game. When you pick up the ultimate, the rockets, well, then all of a sudden, you're actually going to get multiple rockets at Silos. It's a little bit broken. There's some champions where you steal a Kassadin ult, well, you only get one Kassadin ultimate. But if you steal Corgi rockets, you get multiple Corgi rockets you can fire, and that's really broken when you have AP scalings. Either way, they will opt in for a Leona down towards the bottom side. They want to play a little bit aggressive, it seems like. Not something, as I said, we usually see from Reckless. Quite often, we see him on the Ezreal, or the likes of the Misfortune. This time around, they want to take shots on it. Inax on the Ezreal instead.
Okay, I'm happy to see it because Inax's Ezreal yesterday, it looked good.
It's good.
GameWard are still riding that high, right? And hey, they ended up taking this victory against Karmine Corp last time these two teams faced off. So if they want to try and play a little bit more to their comfort, right, keep Karmine Corp, who want to get pretty up close and personal, at a distance with this Corki Ezreal. I can't say I blame them.
No, and now going into the second ban phase, well, you're looking for a jungler on 4 and probably looking to counterpick on 5 from the side of GameWard, so we'll probably see junglers getting banned since they don't have one. And on the side of GameWard, well, they know they'll get the top lane counterpick, and if there's no champion specifically they're worried about getting blinded, that could be the likes of Gwen or whatever they thought that would be annoying to play against, you could take that away too. But actually a different approach coming through from Karmine Corp. They want to at least stop the Sejuani from Melodic, and to be fair, he was a little bit of a terror on it yesterday.
Huge. I'm happy. I'm happy that the Sejuani is paid attention to. I do wish that I could see it again, but because we've taken this ban, and although traditionally it would have been thrown towards the jungle, it's really towards the top side. It does whittle down how much impact you have on what GameWard can and can't pick. So with the last ban, I'd like to see them sort of continue to whittle that down and focus specifically on the jungle, but instead they go for the top lane ban of the Aurelia. Why is this?
So honestly, they could just go for it. Like, I think right now from a Melodic side, you could just pick up the Jace. You then have Corki, you have Ezreal, you have Jace. Insane poke composition that they're not going to be able to respond to. You can pick a jungler that's got more engage and disengage instead of going something with playmaking. Or you can go for the standard route, which is of course the Viego that we've seen so many times into Wukong as well. Wukong blind, matchup is the Viego, yada yada. We know how it goes. And then the story of today has just been blind pick Gnar on top side instead, and it haven't really been punished. We tried to see a punish earlier when Akshan was picked into it, but it never really flourished. So I think we're just going to get a control mage probably from Seiken, and then just a save blind pick coming through from a top laner.
Yeah, Gnar gets locked, and I've got to imagine this incentivizes the Jace even more, the Jace that you were talking up, because why would you not? And when you can already synergize with your composition so well. I think the one thing that GameWard is currently lacking, however, is true frontline, which might incentivize them to go a little bit more towards something like the Orin that is also one of those all-around, sure, we're going to team fight champs.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Or not.
They go for something that creates space too at the same time. So you get the gangplank in here. This is nice, and specifically into Seri as well. It kind of gives you more 2v2 down towards the bottom lane because of the fact you'll have a cannon barrage when you hit level 6. But your point still stands, and I think that's what's important for people to realize as well. That, yeah, I was actually thinking, you're saying just what I wanted to say. Your point still stands. They don't have any immediate engage outside of the Nautilus, but there's not too much follow-up. A lot of it is about playing around with the poke you get from the Corki Rockets, Ezreal Q, and now the Gangplank barrels. If you fall behind with a composition like this, it gets very difficult to pilot because you don't have too many tools to just say, all right, let's out-team fight them, because they have a lot of team fighting tools on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Yona, Shockwave from Orianna, Wukong, everything on Karmine Corp's roster is designed to teamfight, but if GameWard's composition gets going, they never have to teamfight. They can just poke them away from afar and make sure that K-Corp's composition stays useless. So I like the two clashes of stylistic we get between the two here.
Let me just highlight this again for everyone at home, because it's been the theme of today. Level 6 for Karmine Corp is going to be so big in terms of how they have access to playmaking. And you were talking about how GameWard doesn't want to get behind. I look at their composition and I still have a question, and that is, if they don't want to get behind, how do they actually get ahead with the composition that they've drafted themselves? Because the Viego isn't really a big ganker.
That's the neat thing. You don't have to. You just don't need to fall behind. That's the big thing in that instance. I think once you finally want to take charge, you want to be the one taking, the lead. That's where, you finally have your items on towards the Corki. You finally get the items towards the GP. And that's why these team compositions usually are, in a normal sense, very difficult to play, because you don't have anything to do. The opponent gets to have the tempo all the time. They get to dictate the neutral objective. If you start up with Drake, all of a sudden you're on timer. the good thing for GameWard is they can play through the bottom lane. Even with Ezreal, that is usually known as a weak sider, we've seen them play through Inex down towards the spot line multiple times. And with a Nautilus into Leona matchup, it's actually a little bit favored to the Nautilus because it's neutralizing in the sense that if Leona center plates onto you, you can actually hook her out of the center plate, much like you can play her out of the center plate too, and then you can try and turn onto that objective. If you have your jungler down there too, you find the correct skirmishing, well, you can look for members like Ezreal, who sometimes, or Reckless rather, who sometimes get left by himself. So it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out.
Let's pop onto the Rift and see how it goes. All right, we're on to the Rift now, folks, and it's time for... Well, it's time for us to chill, really, Goldborg, because GameWard don't want to do anything, and until level 6, which you said is around, 6 minutes 30, 7 minutes, Karmine Corp also don't really have too much they can do. Vision is, of course, going to be a big part of keeping it that way for GameWard, but in terms of confidence, I think both these teams should be able to play the early game with ease. I guess, however, Chameleus is not going to be in the same boat. Having to flash over the wall now, it's a small disadvantage for GameWard, forced by Karmine.
Yeah, big win for Karmine Corp here, staying aggressive in the early game, and Chameleus not too sure what he was walking in there for. Maybe he just thought that it was a time where he can try and punish Seiken, who was standing in the mid lane, and he wasn't ready for the rest of Karmine Corp to just be in there. So good little trap that Karmine Corp set up there. They punish with a flash, but for now, that's really all they get from that first little early game phase.
You know what's really standing out to me, though, is that unlike 99.9% of Nautilus's, Chameleus doesn't have Hex Flash to make up for this.
And that is actually very interesting. Yeah, even I love playing with that Hex Flash myself, just because it allows you to get bush control, it allows yourself to create space, or lessen the space rather, between you and the enemy carry, in this instance Reckless, on the Seri. Yeah, good pickup is there as well. That is just going to be a no flash at all. Nautilus. Crucially though, he still has the minion determinalizer, which is great for picking up roids in a lane where you're fighting from just, getting the auto attack coming through, and executing the minions to get the push in, which is actually really crucial when you have a melee versus melee matchup like this, where whoever gets to crash the lane first can roam out of the map, and obviously both Leona and Nautilus loved being roaming champions too.
Should let Inax be very comfortable in this Ezreal as well. Already somebody who can play from a million miles away, and now even more so with the junglers both starting up towards the top side. We will eventually be getting them clashing down there, or at least theoretically, but as we illustrated earlier, especially with the distance that Ezreal can take from his opponents, the action should be relatively little until, I want to say, first or maybe even second Drake.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think you're right about that. I can only imagine that lots of the objectives will be forfeited. The only thing why maybe we'll see the first big team fight or anything like that potentially in the early game could be around a Herald, where the members move up there. Obviously, that's usually going to be supports moving up. But for now, still 3 minutes into the game, junglers are popping down towards the bottom side, really mimicking each other, being on pace here. You can see Akabane currently on the Wolves, while 113 is on the red buff. That could mean that we would have a little skirmish around this scuttle potentially in terms of who gets there first. And of course, bot lane priority matters quite a bit in that instance.
113 is moving towards the mid lane, though. This is not going to be expected by anyone, let alone Chekolad, who's pushing up right now. Not going to be capitalized on, it seems, as Clone wasn't utilized just yet, but Chekolad still has to push up, and Akabane's just started moving in. 113 reveals himself, however, and gives that extra second for Chekolad to disengage. Nothing burned. Nothing really to worry about for GameWard. They succeeded. No, but they did not get behind.
It slows the Wukong down a little bit. As you can see, he's still not taking his Raptors, he's still not taking his Crocs. And on the side of Akabane, well, he's clearing his blue buff right now, which will be the last rotation, or can be his rotation. He's already picked up the Scuttle, and he can now look to counter jungle. Chekola has just come back with Teleport. He's got a little bit of an item advantage against Seiken, which means he can put in the mid turret. And now Akabane is actually, out jungling 113 in the instance that he's going to be having a level lead here. He's going to be the one taking away these Raptors.
And it's a very small thing that let this happen, but as we've been fond of saying today, the butterfly effect starts to spread, even giving Chameleus the wherewithal to be able to hook in, knowing that Akabane is on the way, that he and Inex can win this fight, and lo and behold, in comes that Viego. Not finding the stun, but forcing the flash nonetheless. Double summoners now gone from Reckless.
Yes, solid proactivity from Akabane. Usually we'd see recalls coming through now from junglers. You can see they've come through from 113. He's sitting on 2 long swords. But Akabane's decided to stick around longer on the map, taking away the Raptors, moving down towards the bottom lane, getting the summoner spells from Reckless. Just good proactivity from this composition.
Nice Sheen pickup in the top lane as well. Melonic really gets to bully Cabochard with this, despite the Nars sustained throughout this lane with the grasp of the Undying. Things have become more difficult. Melonic now actually drawing 113 up just to make sure that Cabochard gets a nice reset without getting the wave frozen against him. So good contribution from 113, but great force from Melonic.
Yeah, and speaking of frozen waves, in the mid lane now, Chocolat set up a little bit of a freeze while Seiken was back and coming through with the TP. Is not going to matter much because Seiken will just be able to push it back in. But it is one of those things we see from the stronger laners we have here. We talked about the mid lane as well. It was going to be a battle of control, but now that they've both have picked these champions with like solid scaling options, they don't care all too much what's happening here. They just don't want to fall behind. They want to take the small leads that they can get, and they'll be probably happy with just farming up.
Good stuff from both of them, especially where wave management is something that we're looking at as we critically analyze both of these mid laners and how they stack up against each other. That's what they've got to be focusing on as well. A reminder, of course, that with GameWard taking the last victory, Karmine Corp do have a lot more to prove and have the tools to do so in just about a minute or two. We're coming up on that 6:30 mark where we will finally get that Wukong ult coming in, where Seiken already has access to level 6 and Cabochard does as well.
Yeah, and speaking of these junglers, they're mimicking each other here. I think 113 is anticipating a gank coming through. At least he's waiting in the midst of the fog of war, allowing his bot lane to push, well, the bottom lane in safely. If they want to go for a recall, you can see Reckless still haven't been back to purchase any items just yet. So he would really like a reset at this point in time.
Akabane just hit that recall as well, setting himself up for the next potential engagement. Dragon, however, not the focus for these teams as, well, Karmine Corp are looking for a kill, and GameWard are looking not to die. And nobody looking at the Dragon just yet, but everybody looking at Chocolat as 113 and Huntera around the corner. It's a Valk out to safety, and likely a plate going over, though even that isn't assured.
Well, still not getting it here, but
no.
I like the way they're trying to look for moves, right? They have downtown with Huntera, so they might as well just look for something because, I mean, why not? You're just going to be doing nothing in lane afterward, or just go for a recall that's not going to accumulate too much. You get the Valkyrie. In a better instance, maybe you would have gotten a flash, but once again, Chocolat, I like the way he's playing. He's patient about it. Not looking to play too aggressive and take too many bad trades in the early game. If you trade quite a lot as a mid laner, especially in competitive, you get put down to half HP and the enemy does as well. It's not going to matter if your bot lane doesn't have to push because all of a sudden, enemy support is in the lane, you call support gap, but it's because you took trades. So I like the way Chocolat is playing it out.
I like the way that you're calling me out, actually. You call support gaps because you took bad trades. Come on, man. It hurts. It hurts. As Inax
hard to swallow pills.
It really is. It really is. Inax, however, will be able to, for the most part, keep himself a lot more stable than I'm feeling right now and keep Reckless and Huntera at bay. It's more a battle of priority for these lanes than anything, as GameWard don't want to lose too much control of, especially that river vision, to keep track of where 113 is, and if 113 starts up either one of these objectives, where they can punish.
Yeah, 100%. And we're speaking about the rotations from the supports as well. You can see once again, Huntera is the one who's making a move on the map. You understand that he probably doesn't have to commit to it, seeing as there's no contest outside of Melonic coming for the Rift Herald, and he's just going to be moving back into the bot lane to give Reckless the safety of having a support nearby. While on the side of Akabane, they're going to be cross-mapping it, picking up the Drake for themselves. So even in this instance, they're not fully losing out between the teams here on the rotations. They're both gaining something.
And this is really good for GameWard, who, like we illustrated earlier, just want to make sure that they've got something. Well, now they've got something that not only keeps them from falling behind, but that is going to scale up super well. Without the Rift Herald, yes, they don't have access to these instant gold, but the dragons will mean more and more, especially as we get closer to that soul. And we've got it confirmed that it isn't a cloud soul, as that's the next Drake that's spawning.
Yeah, and right now, crucially, GameWard actually playing him out with priority just a little... Wait.
Yep. I think that's... he meant to sweep her, I think.
That is unfortunate for 113, who's had a good 50-50 split, I'd say, so far. Sometimes we see some pop-up performances, and sometimes we see some less stellar ones. On top of that, accidentally using the Rift Herald here, that can just get stopped. Suddenly makes me a little bit pessimistic about the cross map that we had, at least from K-Corp's side, where they dropped the Drake for the Rift Herald.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
A delivery of 25 gold to the bot lane is
Well,
really...
here you go, guys. Another minion for you.
Exactly. I do think it's worth mentioning that after the Rift Herald drop, there was the option for Karmine Corp to force that crash, and I'm really glad that they didn't, because a lot of teams can even fall into sort of the sunk cost fallacy, saying, okay, well, we used it, so let's go, but there was a roam from Akabane and Checolad coming down, and ultimately it's much better to just let that Rift Herald amount to nothing but a minion.
Sometimes you just have to realize that you've made a bad play and there's no reason to double down on it. So yeah, I completely agree with that one. I don't know if it's fair to say they made the most out of a mistake. I guess technically speaking they did, although most didn't mean all too much. Second now has roamed up towards the top side, trying to build Capushot up a little bit, seeing if they can catch an over-aggressive Melonic, but he's not biting the bait.
No, it's really tempting to try and jump onto this Meganar, but Melonic knows just as well as the rest of the team that his job isn't to get kills right now, it is just to continue stacking up gold. And remember, Gangplank is getting bonus gold for this as well. At the same time as he is ever so slightly ahead in CS, that number actually gets inflated even further by just the economic happiness that Gangplank gets. Camelius roaming into the mid lane, mirrored by 113 and Huntera. Should be more of a standstill than anything.
Yeah, but once again, the patience as well. They're not looking for anything. And let's take it back to the first question you answered me. How did they get ahead? Well, necessarily, they don't really have to, right? But they're doing such a good job to stay even. And even just by laning standards, they're ahead because of that. Out-farming on Inax, and something we don't usually see as well. Capushot being out-farmed and out-laned here by Melonic is a great side for GameWard.
I'm also really appreciating that while GameWard don't have to get ahead, Camelius is still roaming in order to force responses from Karmine Corp, because you're not letting yourself as GameWard become a non-factor in the mid game. You're still putting yourself in positions where you could take advantages, you're just not forcing them, and that's making Karmine Corp play with a lot of respect, have to respond to what you're doing, at the same time keeping them from finding the perfect play to get themselves ahead.
I just want to say, like, one thing is 113 is looking for a dive on top lane, but another thing, I don't actually know if they're successful, I just see it on the minimap that he's chilling up there, but another thing is, look at the vision control from GameWard on the bottom side of the map. It is so good.
It is looking solid right now, and it lets them take exactly this trade, with Akabane being able to take away the Krugs. It's still peppered by a Reckless and Huntera, but ultimately totally fine in getting a little bit more of an advantage. It's a good thing, too, because counter-jungling is going on the top side. Akabane could think about a little bit more here. This next wave is going to be deleted pretty shortly. No, well, it isn't a cannon. GameWard might try for something? Or could they be getting
Checolad's coming down as well here. There's TP on Seiken, but you can only TP to a turret. And it looks like they just want to call off the play. A little risky diving in this current patch as well. So I think they made the correct choice there.
Not in this economy. Melonic, however, he's getting dove, and well, he oranges out of there. He actually manages to flash and force Cabochard out as well. Outplaying the turret dive, and the 1v2 is stylish moves.
Not going to be true this time around from Inax. That could have been really crucial. I think both 113 and Capushot was in the well, not per se execute range, but definitely the lethal range of the True Shot Barrage. Melodic, once again, outplaying his opponents on the top side, on the gangplank. He's just looking so comfortable. 113 continuously tries to pull off the dives here, but so far, nothing has really stuck to the wall of what they threw at it.
I really like how this weekend has looked for Melodic. Once 1v2ing on the Sejuani, another time outplaying the 1v2 on the Gangplank, and having a great laning phase against Cabochard, one of the better top laners in the LFL, especially because this is translated into another advantage for GameWard, since they know where 113 just was. It's now 2 dragons and a Mountain Soul coming up, and we know how devastating Mountain Souls can be.
Oh yeah, you know, already if you're a team who's struggling with being a little bit behind, having these resistances to play against while you haven't completed all your item chests, it's just so damn annoying. And once again, GameWard excelling their pressure down towards the bot side, completing their control
Package
around the jungle, and they do have the package as you mentioned.
Wonder if they're going to go for it right now. Playing with a lot of respect, knowing that 113 is coming down to mirror this. Instead of the actual dive, it still turns into really good stuff for the side of GameWard, because Inax gets so much free time, so much space during these moments where he's been able to whittle down the turret without fearing for Huntera and Reckless trying to capitalize on it. So these roams, while not turning into kills, we're still 0-0 at almost 15 minutes into the game, are still worthwhile and are still turning into economic advantages for the side of GameWard.
You're completely right about that. We might still get a fight here.
Solar Flare did go wide. Chameleus will fall for first blood, but it's to Huntera. So the Karmine Corp have gotten the kill. You know.
Unlucky. I think it was the Ignite coming through from Huntera. So, I mean, he did his best to try and just secure a kill for themselves. I actually think GameWard being a little disrespectful on the move, finally coming through from Seiken, maybe feeling themselves a little too much because of the fact they potentially had that package. 113.
Wondering if they've done it again. There comes the Gangplank ult, and we talk about overconfidence on GameWard's side. We finally get a little bit of it from Karmine Corp. Losing their Wukong here is a big problem, especially because he was one of the last remaining defenses of the bot lane. Inax should now not only get that kill participation, but first turret as well.
Yeah, standard limbing testing coming through from 113. We know and love him for him at this point in time. But to go back to another conversation, right, the battle between Chekola and Seiken so far has just been about that wave priority. Whoever pushes it in first and joins his team on the opposite side of the map really just seems to be creating the most space for his team. This time around, though, I think Seiken finally felt comfortable matching the roam afterwards, and GameWard they bid on completely and immediately. Chameleus now on roaming himself, but will be spotted out on the ward in the tri-bush.
I love the instant barrage of pings that comes down on the tri-brush as well. Cabochard is like, look, he's here! And there's not much that he can do. At this point, Anar now being pushed on by an Ezreal who's rotated up here just in time for the next Rift Herald as well, pressuring the tower. Puts GameWard in a continually great spot, and Chekola has been big chilling in the mid-wave. Their poke is just getting more and more problematic. Melodic is able to rotate down, and GameWard are looking good for this third Drake fight that I think Karmine Corp are going to have to take.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, they can still wait, realistically speaking, if they want to, but it's definitely not going to make matters easier for them. They are playing into a composition that also likes scaling. And now TP has come through from Seiken. He was out of mana. Chekola currently has the luxury of having that blue buff on himself, but he's still sitting on one item, whereas Chekola or Seiken now sitting on 1.5. So Checo, he's going to be forced to back. And from the posturing we're seeing right now, it doesn't really look like we're going to be seeing much fighting around the Rift Herald.
No, this is once again going to be all Karmine Corp. We'll see where they end up dropping their second one of the game. Hopefully being able to break open at least a tier 1 tower to get themselves even with GameWard before they're forced to fight together. It's also worth remembering that while we've seen these two teams skirmish, Karmine Corp haven't really shown us their true power yet because we haven't seen these ultimates be layered on top of each other. The Wombo combo is always going to be the promise of Karmine Corp. Unless they're behind even 10,000 gold, you've always got to respect the fact that you group up a little bit too much, Karmine Corp can quite easily take a fight, though it's hard to orchestrate.
Yeah, but this could be a potential for the next coming 15 seconds that we will be having as well, where you said it, like, not necessarily need to, but can definitely try and fight for this one. They have completed the mythic item. Spot lane is pushing in. If they can retain control of the mid lane, can try and get access to the river. But as it stands right now, look at the pink wards. It's GameWard who's set up around here. 113 looking.
Oh, doesn't get it, and instead drops the Rift Herald here. I don't mind this as a way to manufacture mid-priority. 113's taking a bit of a chunk right now, but it gives Karmine Corp the opportunity to clear out this vision, and they still get the chunk.
Oh, wonder what the response is going to be. There's still a lot of good poke in the GameWard composition. None of it is landing at the moment, but if those Mystic Shocks are laid properly,
Solar Flare on top of
be
Karmine, he should be dead. Cyclone goes straight onto him, but Akabane's in the backline, already picking up the reset. And GameWard haven't lost anyone, despite the fact they got engaged on. It's a convincing fight for them, and the third dragon to boot.
And worst of all is that Karmine Corp had 5 members around the bot side of the map. GameWard had 4. Melonic is pushing top lane. That was a disastrous fight from the side of Karmine Corp. Hantara tried to find what he thought was a pick, but got blown up immediately on the Leona. Does not have the aftershock. He's playing with Glacial, which makes you quite squishy, specifically when you haven't picked up the Locket of the Iron Solari yet either.
Flash from Melonic does keep GameWard at 100% advantage after they do not lose their gangplank, but like you talked about, that engage really crucial here, and unfortunately only found onto the one and tankiest member of GameWard right now, Chameleus, who was able to, as opposed to Huntera, proc that aftershock, get the shielding inherent in the Nautilus, and oh my god, did we say Sniper Inax yesterday? I think we did, because we're going to be saying it again.
Oh, we definitely are. He loves feeling himself on the Ezreal too, and he's so true on his shots as well. Barely ever misses. Has finished up 2 items. Reckless currently sitting at 1. I think that just speaks to the difference there is between the two right now. Level, or not level, but second item from the mid lane. Trying to be built up through here from Saken. He's going towards the Rapidon's Death Cap route, just building as much ability power as possible. Whereas from the side of GameWard with Checolat, he's going towards that poke build, right? So he's building Luden's Echo, he's got the Muramana, and looks like he's going towards a Hexstringer as well with the Null Magic Mantle picked up.
No way Melonic gets out of this, right? Beryl does get eliminated. Shockwave comes in. In comes the Orange as well. 3 members take 5 seconds to take down Melonic, and it's enough. This Baron belongs to GameWard.
Yeah, there's 2 members in the mid lane that can try and contest it. It's already down to half HP. Capushot does not have the Mecha Form either, and now they're helping them leash a little bit with the W. This should go to the side of GameWard.
Reckless has got to look out. There goes the Smite. And unable to find the engagement. Cabochard is still looking for it. We don't get to the Spark Surge finding anyone just yet. And Cabochard doesn't find the kill either. 113 on the flank has the Cyclone, but GameWard are playing an excellent defensive game. And though they lose a tower in the mid lane, they have gained so much.
Oh yeah, and with the 2 minutes active of this Baron buff moving forward, they're going to be putting themselves in prime position for the Soul fight as well. So it's just like the domino effect now currently building up. Melonic down towards the bot side gets picked up by 3 members instantly. GameWard is back towards the Baron, and now they should be able to take more control of the map. You know, finally taking down that mid lane turret. They can siege it up with the Ezreal and the Corki at the same time. And no, it wasn't a Hexstringer coming through from Checolat. It was actually a QSS just to stop the CC if he was ever caught by the Leona. But yeah, 5 members from GameWard now trying to take control about the enemy jungle.
I mean, the QSS making this game, of course, even more difficult for an already struggling Karmine Corp. However, during the beginning part of this game, as we got onto the Rift, we were talking about the matchup between these mid laners. Checolat, of course, compositionally has provided so much. What does Saken need to find some sort of success on this Ori?
I mean, it's about finding those insane shockwaves we've already seen, always seen rather. Like, Ori towards when she hits that level 16 will always be a threat if the members walk forward. But it's going to be so difficult because they're playing into a lot of range. Once again, the Corki, the Ezreal, them stepping on towards a ball. It takes a little bit of skill for Saken, of course, to find that shockwave, but I also think it takes a mistake from GameWard to allow that to happen.
At this point, it certainly does. Fortunately enough for Karmine Corp, they have been able to get at least a little bit of gold back for this, starting with that mid lane tier 1 and turning it into a top lane tier 1, but they are losing so much more in pressure around these tier 2s that have now fallen. Top lane already gone, mid lane a foregone conclusion, and now this bot lane really under a lot of siege right now, one that I don't see stopping because GameWard's poke composition is definitely built for siege.
Yeah, and remember, once again, it's not, well, it's great that you take down these turrets, of course that's great, but what it also leads to at the same time is the fact that Drake is going to be up in 1 minute, and you're gaining so much control of the map right now.
113 goes for it, doesn't find the knockup, no shockwave to follow up, and now it's a full-on retreat. Hantera is left alone, and he gets taken down by Akabane. Checoblad coming in from the side, poke not going to land initially, instead of shockwave onto him, and Reckless is able to take him out. Karmine Corp strike back, but they still lose 2 members.
Yeah, lose 2 members, jungler still alive, 113 incredibly low, he's going to be forced to back. And they retain the control on the map. They push in the second tier 2 turret down towards the bottom lane here. The entire jungle of Karmine Corp is lit up by wards, pink and normal wards alike for GameWard. And this Drake is looking like it's going to be prime position for them to pick up. And just pretty much pick up an uncontested soul. I'm not sure how Karmine Corp is going to get into this one.
It's wild that we've gotten to this point. It's wild that we've gotten to that point as Reckless is forced to flash over the wall. No jump. He didn't trust the delay on it. He's like, Inax is too good.
That's absolutely crazy. Boomerang not going to be enough. Mountain Soul has been secured by GameWard, and you know, this should put them in a perfect position. Now they can start to play up towards the top side instead. You still keep the pressure going in the mid lane. You can have Melonic in the bot. You have the rest of the members on the top side instead. You just excel your pressure out on the broad map scale.
I mean, huge props to GameWard as well, because they have demonstrated a control over the game since they hit their power spikes that we haven't seen mirrored by a whole lot of teams. There have been very few mistakes from this squad, and now it's looking like they're going to be able to close out a game in much similar fashion.
And it's looking dicey for Karmine Corp. You can see they're still trying to find responses to the situation they have right now. All right, let's see if we can push in the bottom side of the map. Let's stay grouped here. If anyone oversteps, we can find a pickup. But as you can see, there's also tools in the GameWard composition. They can phase check with the Mystic shots, allowing themselves to never get caught up by the bushes here. And Karmine Corp, they have retained good bottom control vision now, but once again, no one's really biting from GameWard.
Not yet, certainly, as we do have up on the top side, Melonic taking a little bit of a step back. He's likely got an item completion to be had, and already Lord Dominic's regards is pushing him over the line into ridiculous when it comes to being able to take out Karmine Corp. Our Death Brush is being set up, but they are really living on a prayer, our Karmine Corp, and might end up taking 2 losses this weekend. True Shot Barrage. Very cool. More cinematic than anything. And also, the biggest thing we've got going on for the next minute is then Baron's going to spawn.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I'm going to give this game 5 to 6 minutes, and then it's over. If Karmine Corp managed to take the win, it's because of a huge throw from GameWard, but like, majority of the pressure Karmine Corp had was just used towards the bottom side, right? They used all their pink wards down there, they used all their wards, and that means the top side is in full control of GameWard, which is of course perfect when they want to gear up towards the Baron. At the same time, there's going to be another pressure point, which is going to be Melonic. He has teleport. The only other member who's got teleport on Karmine Corp is Seiken, which means that Cabochard can't really match the Gangplank either. So there's just so many holes in the ship right now and not enough buckets to get the water out.
There's a genuine world where GameWard don't even actually Baron, they just wait around it, play poke wars, and wait for Melonic to get that wave in a position where he can start knocking on the inhibitor doors, because that's going to happen slowly but surely. Instead, however, Melonic does start rotating up, and perhaps GameWard do want to find themselves a real knockdown, drag-out fight. You gave them 5 to 7 minutes. I think GameWard want to make it more like 2 to 3.
Well, let's see how it goes. Well, I said it when we were 25 minutes into the game, so 2 minutes has gone right now, and they still not started up the Baron. They want to see if one member makes a mistake.
Akabane does land that first hit. GameWard have the forgiveness of the Mountain Soul, so no actual health damage has been done to them just yet. And let's not forget the insane amount of resistances. Mid lane Prio does get secured by Checo Lad, but we're thinking about recalling right now. Karmine Corp are having an identity crisis, and 113 just wants that one perfect engage.
Oh, looking for there.
Doesn't get it, instead CC'd up and almost blown up. Akabane even lands the stun, allowing a little bit more damage to follow through from Chekolad. And now, with 113 on 25% HP, there is not a chance that you manage to contest this Baron. And Baron isn't even what GameWard were thinking about anymore. They operate towards the mid lane, letting Melonic push all the way in, forcing, without a doubt, Karmine Corp to go back and respond to that, and then they finally start up this Baron that'll really be the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, mid lane turret picked up here. 113 had to recall. He's not going to come in from behind either, so this is just going to be a Baron secured up by GameWard.
Look out for Melonic's barrels, because if Karmine Corp try and engage this, that's going to be the answer. Melonic not able to pull one off just yet. Instead, Akabane gets caught and Heartbreaker's out, not even having to burn the flash right now. And GameWard is still thinking about it, if I'm honest. They are looking for this engagement. In comes the Shockwave. Melonic goes low. There's the hook, though, and Cabo Shard gets blown up. It's a pick and a Baron going to GameWard.
Never got the Nara of either. There's no reason to just go for the push now. You can get the reset, pick up some more items. Revenous Hydra has now been completed from Chekolad. His poke is going to be relentless. 3 items as well on Inax. They're just going to be pushing down the mid lane here with the Baron unpowered minions. Chekolad even TPing on the bot wave to stack it up with the Baron in power.
Really nice call-outs, or rather hooks from Chameleus as well, has made this game impossible for 113. At almost every engagement where we could have seen the Cyclone into Shockwave, Chameleus is standing there, keeping 113 from being able to access the rest of the team, and it has meant so much value given over to this Nautilus, who was prioritized pretty darn early on in the draft.
Yeah, it was already first pick from GameWard, so knew they wanted it into this area. And Chameleus, I mean, he'd made the most out of it. Barely made any mistake this game, and most of the time he's just been a spawn in the side on K-Corp as well. And as you said, good hooks. But now sieging has begun. 4 members in the bottom side, 1 member in the mid lane. Turret sure to fall soon. You got 2 cannon minions. Yeah, there you have it.
That big one really takes a chunk out of Saken's health, and Cabashard, looking for the re-engage, is on Meganar right now. It's a terrible time to go Mega as well, because the rest of the team just wasn't ready. Already halfway out, there goes the speed up, but GameWard know exactly what's going on. They can dance the electric boogaloo along with him, and Cabashard's Mega expires, as do the chances of a full team fight happening. Karmine Corp find themselves engaged. They find Melonic. It's a big shutdown over to Cabashard, but they lose both inhibitors, and GameWard just have to disengage. No barrels left to punish this. Chameleus hooks into the front lines. 113 jumps onto Inax, and Chameleus is gone. 2 picks out of GameWard, but they got, again, exactly what they came for.
Yeah, the thing is, though, there's an Elder Drake alive here. 30-second death timers for Melonic and Chameleus, but the base is just in shambles. This doesn't seem like a way that KCOM can respond to it just immediately. 113 almost dead.
At that point, there is no chance that you get to take this. We do have a Meganar in the back right now, sort of going off on his own. I like the look from Cabashard, ready to find a play, but it doesn't actually get them anything just yet. Only a little bit of priority on this Dragon. Karmine Corp would need to find another convincing team fight right here. It is easier because it's just 3 members, but it's all the 3 that can poke you from afar and then finish you off with that Heartbreaker burst from Viego. Dragon falling near to half health. 113 is back. It's going to come down to a smite battle between Akabane and he. Sitting in the Pixel Brush for right now. It is crucial that Akabane stay out of sight. Saken gets collapsed on. He goes golden. Do you finish off the Dragon or do you turn? You turn right onto GameWard, and they turn it right back around. Cabashard gets a 3-man stun, but it isn't enough, and 113 has no choice but to recommit, taking himself out of the game, giving that Elder Dragon over to GameWard. This game is so theirs.
100%, they should just be able to push it down. Remember, Super Minions already in the base. They're coming through the mid lane. They're coming through the bot side. They have the Elder Drake in axe. Looking for a potential kill here. Gets the stop. That's all it's going to give him for now. But here we have it. Down towards the Nexus turrets.
At this point, 1 WQ from Inax will kill anyone, perhaps even Huntera, but that's not even going to have to connect as the Nexus is under fire. Chameleus throws out 1 more hook for old time's sake, but this is going to be GameWard collecting the 2-0 seasonally over Karmine Corp.
And there we have it. GameWard, they show up. They're decisive, and once again,